Welcome back to our conversation with two ace reporters from the State House News Service, Katie Lannan and Matt Murphy. So last week, MBTA officials, released a revised estimate of $10.1 billion in money they'll need to complete their repair plans for the MBTA. Repair plans. And that's being used as fodder by folks who want to see broad-based tax hikes to, in part, help fund the T, not to mention the whole education funding issues we have bubbling up. How would handicap for me the situation surrounding broad-based tax hikes now in the State House? It feels like we talk about that every time you're here, but that is a gigantic locomotive that's coming down the track. Am I right?
Sure, yeah. I think it's an interesting situation. You've got kind of a consensus that new taxes need to be explored. We've heard from legislative leaders, Speaker DeLeo, that everything's on the table, but what that everything is still a little murky. There hasn't been a consensus, anything really solidified as what direction the state's going to go in. Here's some people talking about the gas tax, some people talking about congestion pricing, more toll roads, but there's not really a path ahead for that locomotive you mentioned to travel down. Well,
is the MBTA situation a key factor in all this? It would seem to me, if you're trying to sell the public on the idea that we need to do this, that's Exhibit A.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the big obstacles, of course, Governor Baker doesn't really have much of an interest in a broad-based tax increase. He keeps talking about his $8 billion capital plan for the MBTA. This is long-term borrowing over the next 5 years. He says it's the most ambitious spending that's ever been done at the T in that sort of time span. But legislators aren't really buying. It doesn't seem that there aren't going to be new revenues needed. Chairman Strauss, the House Chair of the Transportation Committee, saying last week he doesn't think you can get the kind of revenues you need without raising the gas tax, which kind of goes back to those Governor Patrick days when he talked about the gas tax. And there are other ideas out there, not the least of which the millionaire's tax, even though that's further down the road.
Right. Well, that wouldn't come up for another 3 years. In the meantime, though, if they're going to do something in the short term, whether it's the tolling or any one of these measures, gas tax maybe, wouldn't the rule of thumb be do it now when you're more than a year away from legislators standing for re-election?
Yeah, I think that's why you're hearing them talk about this year, and I don't know if they can get it all done. What I've started to hear is that you'll see the Senate, after next week's budget debate, really turn their focus to trying to get an education funding reform plan done. That's going to require perhaps a new revenue to pay for all that additional spending. If that can get done before the summer recess, maybe you see them turn to a transportation package in the fall.
But, you put your finger on a very significant development here when Speaker DeLeo, who's been the ally of Governor Baker in holding off new taxes, when he's sounding more open to it, that's key.
Absolutely. And, the speakers indicated an interest in letting kind of the Revenue Committee do their work as a legislative committee and review the bills so that, as we're talking about near-term solutions, it's unclear how long that process will go on and if it will, in fact, be near-term.
Yeah.
Wow. I think we do have to watch for the business community, too. The Speaker, kind of an open call out there for people like Jim Rooney at the Greater Boston Chamber to rally the business community behind a plan that then legislators, Democrats, could use for some cover to pursue a tax package.
Great point.
And we've heard the Chamber and Jim Rooney just this past week voicing frustration at the MBTA and the delay in projects like new Orange Line cars, like automated fare collection, saying, something needs to be done there so riders are seeing these improvements.
Yeah, momentum is definitely building. Katie, thank you.
Thanks, John.
Matt, great to see you.
Thanks, John.
Appreciate both of you and your insight. That's it for me. Now it's back over to my colleagues for more WBZ News.